Yeah, well, it's true. And Detonation Focus Me, they have definitely read the memo, Papa Smithy. Udi are going to be banned away as well as Nautilus away from Moss, you have to think. Janna and Maokai are going to be banned away from the Bangkok Titans. Interesting, they're not actually taking away the Hecarim here, instead aiming for that Maokai against Bonzen, who was actually playing that champion a fair bit. So we'll see whether he's going to change it up by picking that Maokai, sorry, not the Maokai, the Hecarim first up. There has been a bit of a trend, ladies and gentlemen, and of course with a 7-0 record thus far in the International Wildcard Invitational, you have to think that it's possibly going to happen again. Callista going to be taken away from Lloyd, and that is interesting because, of course, 100% Graves.
The Callista ban on the blue side is super interesting just to me because one of the most notable things about the Detonation Focus Me Grand Final win that qualified them for this tournament when they won the LoL Japan League Season 1 against their sister team, Rabbit 5, I believe, was the fact that it was all about the Callista coming out from Udapon. He's their carry from the bottom lane. He plays an excellent Callista with an unorthodox build, but just bans it away from himself on the blue side, respecting Lloyd's Callista. A lot of the champions, remember the last pick shows you the Hecarim, Udyr, Ahri, Graves that has been the cornerstone of this team. A lot of those champions available. Maybe they're not sure if that Bonzen plays Hecarim, but if any indication has shown us, he's taking a lot longer than other teams to lock in this Hecarim straight away.
Yeah, it was hovering the Teemo for quite some time. Of course, I'm going to take props for not discussing the fact that Teemo could be picked up here, but...
So you just did.
Hecarim going to be considered, yeah. Yeah, needed to make sure. Hecarim is going to be there with the Ignite teleport thus far. Bonzen going to lock it in eventually. They are having a bit of a giggle, our Japanese players, as they manage to get the 100% win rate champion. As 007X, he's going to lock away Gragas. Could be going towards Moss there in the support role, though.
Exactly. They have played Gragas only in the support role. Actually, the interview after their win, they kind of professed that their team hadn't really practiced Gragas, so they just elected to put him in the support role. I have a feeling 007X, if he had a couple of hours to bask in the wonders of their two victories, might have been just practicing those Gragas mechanics.
He may have been watching the previous game as well, and Julio Stito definitely showed
what are you
Gragas
taking
can do
away?
some stuff.
I mean, has he taken away that if you get a lot of kills and get tanky, Gragas pretty straightforward?
Yeah. So it's sort of like the same as any other champion in League of Legends.
Absolutely. So I don't know how much you can pick up from watching an excellent Gragas player play, but he's locked it in, and as you say, they have the flexibility to go for that all-in bottom lane. Graves Gragas, a very decent burst option as a bottom 2v2 lane.
Yeah, and interesting, again, the double jungle pick away here. 007X thinking about picking up the Nunu. It is going to be locked in. Interesting summoner spells, but they may actually change as Astaroth thinking about his options now. Seros played a fantastic Azir in their first game, despite the loss there against Hard Random. We'll see whether he's going to pick that one up again. The Teemo hover's coming through thick and fast, but not going to be opted into, and we'll see exactly what happens as we move forward. Of course, this timer has to get down a little bit before Detonation Focus Me. Going to take this, into a serious picking phase. Speaking
of serious picking phases, there's no ambiguity coming through from these Bangkok Titans picks. This will be a jungle Nunu and a support Gragas. I guess there's always the potential that we see the reversal, but based on the fact that 007X, his most comfortable champion is Nunu. They have their most success with the likes of Nunu, Lulu, and Cassiopeia comps, which might be a consideration. G4 has been the big revelation. He's the big carry for this team. Has played only exclusively Ahri so far, but 12-1 and in those two games has really gone off on the Ahri. So wouldn't be a surprise to me for him to stay with that champion.
Yeah, we'll see what he does decide to go with. Lloyd thinking about a Lucian here, but on the other side, Astaroth is going to lock away the Lulu, and Seros is taking the Sivir here for Udapongo. And I like that pickup, of course. Again, the synergy with the Hecarim here, the on the hunt plus that horse doing a whole lot of work. G4 is going to lock away the Zed here. So, of course, the power play here for the Bangkok Titans on that super tricky mid lane assassin. And few fancy plays could be coming through.
I mean, the only issue with Zed is there's always the need for wave clear from other members. Gragas, decent wave clear from the jungle. Lucian, again, decent wave clear. Might need to consider that they would probably really want a Lulu to go with this lineup because Lulu taken away in the second round of picks. Those first three picks have been super high priority coming through from Detonation. Hecarim, Lulu, and Sivir. They're considering their options with the rest of the picks, but it's already a very strong draft coming through from the Detonation Focus Me lineup.
Yeah, and Seros is actually going to pick away the Ahri here into the Zed. Of course, Spawn discussing that matchup yesterday, saying that it actually favors Zed a little bit now.
I mean, he was talking about the fact that Zed's roaming is really a different kind of layer to his play. I definitely agree. It was a very eloquently put piece on the thing, but it's to some degree, we maybe overused the term skill matchup. I feel like Zed probably favored,
I mentioned that, Papa Smithy.
It's probably 60-40 to Zed in terms of the laning phase, because you just, again, play develops. People get it better at holding on to that, especially ultimate cooldown, the death mark, to avoid the charm and negate a lot of the damage coming through. Creative at pathing around minions, as Spawn was putting forward. There's always the potential the Ahri can take it, but Zed is probably the favorite coming into the lane.
Yeah, and of course G4 being a massive power play here for the Bangkok Titans as well is going to help that one out. Moss thinking about picking up a Shen here for Warlock in the top side of the map. And we'll see whether that one is going to be locked through. I mean, there are some interesting picks to come down on our Bangkok Titans lineup, and it is going to be the Shen.
So Warlock actually plays a lot of Shen. Played it multiple times.
They blind pick it, I believe.
They did blind pick it in, I believe, the finals. But between the semi-final and finals of the Greener Premier League, played a lot of Shen. In the final against the Saigon Fantastic Five, showed that he was happy to pick Shen against this Hecarim, but I mean, it just feels like it's a free farm lane for Hecarim. It feels like a bit like if you saw a Morgana top against Hecarim. If you're going to go 1v1, you're not going to see much pressure coming out from a Shen. He's not normally looking for a very quiet laning phase, building his way towards the Barmy Cinder and thus the Sunfire Cape for a bit of AoE pushing. But kill pressure from Nunu Shen onto a Hecarim is basically absent completely. They don't have much kill pressure. Hecarim should get free farmed, and Hecarim 7-0 with a massive KDA is a scary proposition in the late game for the likes of Lloyd and in general, the Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, and Detonation Focus Mid, not only is the Hecarim a fantastic pickup here, they've got the Sejuani, the massive beast of 5.7.
It's just a crazy lineup.
Yeah, it is a crazy lineup. And Kazoo, of course, playing that Lulu in the support role, one of these support players that still likes to take Lulu there to the bottom side of the map and able to team it up with the Sivir to really lay down the wave clear. They're going to have so much pushing power.
I'm super excited actually to see 2v2. I really hope we do see the 2v2 lane, just because as you mentioned, Sivir Lulu, that's basically instant wave clear coming through.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side, Lucian Gragas, what an amazing all-in at level 2 we're talking about with that particular lane. The burst coming through is crazy. So burst versus wave clear, level 2 is the big consideration. Whether they take early camps, maybe the Gromp to get an early level 2, maybe share experience on that, and then enter lane, ping level 2, and go for the all-in. You feel like over a long laning phase, if Sivir and Lulu aren't pressured early, if they can keep their potions, should be able to just wave clear and punish the enemy laners. But if Gragas and Lucian get going, they can really start to hard deny, freeze the lane with all their kill pressure.
Yeah, and you have to think that Detonation Focus Me definitely looking for that 2v2. We are going to open with a slight pause, ladies and gentlemen, so we're going to hang around just for a little while. But, of course, Detonation Focus Me, they probably want the 2v2 and the 1v1 there as well. Give Hecarim some time just to chill out in that top lane against Shen. Doesn't want to get him shoved in here and denied farm because hasn't taken that smite. The double jungle, not quite as strong here for this Hecarim.
And look, the Shen will do capably in a 1v2 if he does end up being lane swap. So if they get the lane swap, remember, the Bangkok Titans, they did lane swap with Gragas, I believe, in the last time they had him in the support role. You can say that Gragas, when he's freed from lane presence, when he doesn't have a downside, because remember, that all-in doesn't work at level 2.
Yeah.
They'll probably fall behind, and Gragas not going to have that much lane presence, can throw down the barrel roll, maybe just charge it up to try to push forward a lane, so has decent range pushing options, but in a laning phase is still a melee champion, so will struggle a bit. In a jungle follow situation, or just in a 1v2 situation where he doesn't have to be a cannibal in lane. From level 2 onwards, his jungle follow, if he's there with the jungler, the ganks onto mid lane will be super intense coming through, even with just the Nunu snowball, getting into position to the drunken rage, and the body slam coming through. It's burst damage, it's CC, it's again, if it's not accountable, a lot of lane presence means maybe the lane swap will be initiated for the red side team.
Yeah, and I very much like the idea of a zoning barrel to be used in these 2v1 situations as well. Really keep that top laner out of the lane, out of experience range by just leaving that barrel there and saying walk over it if you want to come towards the
And that's the fun thing. You're not looking to snipe them for damage like you would have been in Gragas games past. Not AP Gragas in this point. It's basically ensuring that their pathing has to be predictable. You throw it on the right side. Now you know they're always going to be tending towards the left, and then you can try and take them out with a skill shot or just with trade damage. There's a lot of interesting zoning implications. It's why I feel like eventually support Zillion will come through. Because although those bombs aren't as instant now, you can't just click on the enemy. It's not a right click.
You can pick them up though.
But they're still zoning tools, right? They still they sit on the ground. That you have to respect their position. Okay, Zillion's very squishy, so he just dies in the 2v2. But the meta will evolve, and I feel like eventually, I always was a big fan of zone. It's why I loved Ziggs back in Season 1 before I realized, so back in Season 2 when he was introduced, before I realized that he would just make games go forever. I always thought, that the minefield was a really interesting mechanic, and the likes of the Zillion Bomb, and in this game, as you mentioned, the support Gragas Barrel just to affect positioning really interests me.
Yeah, and we've also always sort of witnessed the Anivias of the world as well, and that Glacial Storm, another thing that's very similar to that, able to zone out whole teams from underneath turrets.
And obviously, if we want to see Anivia, there's a chance that Swiffer from the Chiefs will play that champion, one of his favorites, one of his control mages that he enjoys playing. Coming back to this game in general, let's talk about the Shen, because we don't see a lot of Shen in competitive play anymore. Barmy Cinder's one of the reasons that you can consider him, just because you get that Sunfire cape, you get the semblance of wave clear from much earlier in the game. You can start with a Ruby Crystal and then 600 gold, quick investment, and you have the Barmy Cinder for a bit of wave control. Shen's big problem is a fiercely single target, needs Sunfire Cape or some semblance of damage to have any sort of wave control. A bit like a Trundle, doesn't build Tiamat necessarily.
I think Static Shiv is a great option as well.
Well, I mean, of course, the forerunner to Static Shiv was, of course, the Ionic Spark, which was a Shen item because it fulfilled the role and it built out a health and was a bit more, I think it was health and a recurve bow. Sapphire Crystal.
Yeah, I seem to remember.
Ruby Crystal.
Back in the beautiful days of Shen with
I think it lasted for about 3 patches, and they reworked it into an 80 carry item. But still, any sort of wave clear has always been a priority for Shen. So Barmy Cinder being so cheap makes him a consideration. I just don't like this particular matchup. They've opted into it before against Saigon Fantastic 5, like I said. You just don't have any pressure on a Hecarim. And if you take Hecarim off the leash, which is ironic because he's a horse, that's just... But if you just let him free farm, we know what happens in the late game. Even without the smite, even with this, without the smooth build path of the likes of the Cinder Hulk into the Trinity Force, into the Home Guard boots, you don't really need a smooth build path against a Shen who doesn't really have any pressure. You're not going to be kind of forced into an early Spectre's Cowl in this situation unless Nunu's literally just sitting in top lane the whole game. So you can just happily build the Trinity Force. You're going to free farm because Shen, again, doesn't really do much trade damage. And then you're going to have that Trinity Force and theoretically your tankiness at a fast clip, which is the worrying thing, is that Hecarim and him overtaking top lane is a bit like Shen in Season 1. We always said Shen, when he had higher base damages, could win lane, and then you just win game with the ultimate. It feels like Hecarim, with the advent of Summon and Teleport, does a lot of the same things.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little bit distracted imagining Brumbies sort of galloping beautifully throughout a meadow somewhere.
Just take
free
the leash
as a
off.
Bird. I know, just take the leash off your Hecarim. Allow them to go free. Beautiful Hecarims running through. But, of course, the Detonation Focus Me lineup looks incredibly solid as a team comp, but what are our Bangkok Titans actually trying to do with theirs? Is it all about the split push?
I mean, you have to think 1-3-1's in the playbook.
Yeah.
Shen never wants to be grouped up, even though he does have the initiation potential. Exactly. Even though Shen doesn't have the initiation potential of the Taunt Flash, he's probably going to be splitting away with the ultimate. Zed's going to be splitting away most likely. It feels like they're just going to look for a delay, but if you pull this game long, Hecarim's going to have 3 items, Sejuani's going to have multiple items. The late game looks pretty crazy from the Japanese team.
Well, we're going to start with the early game here, Papa Smithy, as we are into our second game of the day. Detonation Focus Me taking on the Bangkok Titans. And Detonation Focus Me having a rough time yesterday. Bangkok Titans the entire opposite there. As now we'll see whether the Japanese lineup can pick up a victory.
Well, I mean, KLG, they were one of the teams that had a victory in our first game, getting on the board. Now it's time for the Japanese team to ensure that everyone has a victory as we get to the business end of the IWCI. Very big invade coming through. They're looking for that lane swap potentially at Detonation Focus Me, and they've got the aggressive lane wards that really kind of are the telltale sign. They want to jungle around this red side jungle of Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, and Warlock actually using Shen as an actual ninja, which is fantastic. Wasn't spotted there on the top side of the map. 10 out of 10 work, Shen, because, of course, normally you're a pretty terrible ninja being a tank in that front line.
I feel like you should keep that as one of your regular sayings. 10 out of 10, good work, Shen. It rhymes. And I know how much you are about rhyming.
Yeah, my catchphrase. 10 out of 10, good work, Shen. I don't know whether there's going to be enough Shen games for that one to really work out, but I'll see what I can do.
Let's throw the gambit over to Warlock. Maybe this game he can make you a believer.
Yeah, and hopefully make top laners across the world a believer
but look,
as well.
He really prioritized this champion. He's played it 3 times in competitive play in April, this month, as recently as this month. The one thing you can say is patch 5.7, I believe the first... competitive tournament on patch 5.7, Shen does actually have buffs on this patch. Suddenly Stand United isn't that massive cooldown at level 1. Starts off at 180 seconds, so already a 20 per second reduction in time, but it actually scales down to 120 seconds at level 3.
Exponentially, Papa Smithy.
Exactly, 180 to 160 to 120. We discussed this off
We
air.
did, and you were upset
For
about
2 minutes, you get some cooldown reduction probably somewhere in your build, at least a Spirit Visage maybe. We're talking about maybe sub 2 minute cooldown on that 850 damage shield coming through from Shen. We're waiting for this level 2 to be popped in bot, but there's a lot of factors that might make Shen relevant even in today's meta.
Well, we'll see whether it does come through. Kazoo already taking half of his health. Moss doing the same as there's the level 2 to come down. Yutapon gets exhausted as Gragas gets taken down to 200 health.
And we talked about the fact that the lane presence was going to be difficult if they didn't pick up the level 2. Now with Exhaust, a big summoner spell down, we're going to have to see such defensive laning coming out of the Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, and already Detonation Focus Me demonstrating the fact that this bottom lane has so much pushing power. You can see Yutapon and Kazoo really able to push that one into the turret before the next minion wave had even arrived. So Yutapon gone through a lot of mana, but has done exactly what this bottom lane was intended for.
I feel like it was just a misfire from Lloyd and Moss. They need to get to lane early, use that piercing light. They, of course, have the Relic Shield, so theoretically they should have more damage to minions at level 1 and just power down this wave and force the first level 2. But the moment that it was denied, this is the result, is that you have a melee support. It's not Alistar, it doesn't have sustain, for example. It's not Leona, it doesn't have quite the same initiation options at level 3. You're going to have to play this lane very specifically to win it, and I feel it's going to be a really difficult one for Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, looks like they're navigating it so far. Of course, the push continuing here, and they're able to sit underneath that turret. Moss throwing out some barrels, but Yutapon picks up some mana from it. Nice spell shield to come down as Moss taking more harass. Beautiful glitter lance there onto Lloyd as he's down to 400 health. The trade coming through. Boomerang not going to hit on the way back as Yutapon and Lloyd on similar health bars. Kazoo getting some harass down as well. And this bottom lane is action constantly here.
Yeah, we've had our eyes trained upon bottom lane for the first 4 minutes of the game. It's just a unique bottom lane. You don't see Lulu in the support role frequently. 007X not being the greatest secret agent just because he can't do much against the Hecarim.
Yeah, the fabulous horse in the top lane making rainbows, but the Yeti not going to find too much as Warlock continues just to farm out his wave. Does have a couple of creeps in the advantage with that Doran shield available as well. And as an energy user, I mean, he's not exactly going to get pressured out of the lane anytime based on resource, but 007 continues to make his way across the map and forces a flash. Seros getting very frightened.
I feel like he could have been more judicious with the flash. Didn't feel like there was kill pressure. Double flashes, though, from the likes of Zed. Zed's passive, always very relevant, that percentage health damage.
Yeah.
Ignite being up. It might have been necessary. Looked awkward, but I think it was one of those line ball things where it was a possible that there was kill pressure, but look, safety first.
Yeah, I guess blow the summoner spell instead of giving away first blood is probably a good way to do it.
But in an even lane matchup like Ari and Zed that we discussed before, I think maybe that's smart.
Yeah, well, of course, G4 is known to do some pretty crazy things there in that mid lane. Probably had a Living Shadow available as well. We'll see whether it is going to come through when he gets back to lane. Of course, obviously going to be going back now considering the fact that chunk down to about 250 health, you don't want to stay in a lane with a Zed.
And
most
look,
definitely.
we're learning a lot about Bangkok Titans because how much can you really take from the fact that they played the same 4 champions in both their wins yesterday?
Yeah.
They're all on unique picks now. No more of that Udyr, saddest of days, but definitely some different picks. Struggling in the bottom lane in the 2v2. Didn't get the lane swap they might have been opting into with their early vision wars that we saw, the big engages from both teams at level 1 to try and get those lane swaps. No lane swaps coming through, and now struggling after the ping came for level 2 from the Lulu Sivir lane.
Yeah, the Lulu Sivir lane actually coming through there as well and making sure that they were chunking out Moss before they could get that devastating level 2 burst combo down that you were mentioning before.
Absolutely. So less options means that Moss probably going to have to be very passive in this lane. Maybe he'll find a situation where he can leave lane, maybe matching the roam coming through from the Lulu at some point for vision and get some cross-map ganks. But we will definitely not see either the big jungle ganks coming through with the likes of the Nunu. And we've seen Nunu visit multiple lanes, but the snowball can only be so useful.
Yeah, well, it's true. And he has been picked up a flash already as well just by walking at an Ari. And you have to say that is a gift that he wasn't even expecting coming through. And he's certainly shown a whole lot of presence around the map in multiple lanes. So that is fantastic for, what, 4 minutes into the game?
Exactly. That's better than expected from the Nunu, which should shape well as we scale into this game. Still waiting for the big question marks, like the first big Stand United use.
Yeah.
The first rotations coming through from either team. Just standard laning to bring things out. Again, Bangkok ties on the back foot and bottom lane, in the ascendancy in mid lane now with Zed as a melee champion, being able to be even more aggressive, can happily stand forward, auto-attack the minions and wave clear aggressively, knowing that Ari just has to hang back because no flash.
Yeah, of course, and it's going to be very, very difficult. And I want to talk about Shen just for a moment here because it's sort of reminds me a little bit of Twisted Fate. And I was just wondering whether it is as important for a Shen to make sure that that first Stand United going to be impactful.
I don't think necessarily it's quite the destiny just because Shen doesn't necessarily have the same damage impact when he shows up in lanes. But when we're talking about the bottom lane in particular, when you've got a burst support in some ways on the Gragas, I feel like maybe there could be that option to go for the all-in that was possible with the level 2. If they had got the level 2 first, had Lucian Gragas, just go for it when Shen hits level 6. You've got someone to teleport to get back to lane. If you ever find yourself able to push out this top lane, maybe just go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, and actually Bonzen heading back and picking up the Ninja Tabi already as Yutapon going to continue to farm out this bottom wave. But man, actually decides that he wants to sell that one back. So actually going for the Mercury's Treads by the looks of things, as that Null Magic Mantle and the Boots are going to be occupying that slot instead. But very early Boots to pick up. I understand it, of course, is going to be able to scale that into the attack damage, as G4 is going to offer some shurikens to Seros, and Seros is going to say, I'd prefer not to have those, thank you very much.
I actually don't mind the Mercs in this particular game. It's not as much sheer CC. It's definitely not the Sejuani on the enemy team. Of course, Sejuani with Detonation Focus Me. But there's so much consistent slows, in particular from the likes of Nunu, and even Moss, who has so much CC on the kit of this reworked Gragas a few months ago, that Mercs is probably the smarter choice.
Yeah, Warlock actually now with a level advantage here as Bonzen heading back towards this lane. There's the ult, though, to come through, and as soon as G4 hits level 6, he picks up the kill.
And that's the big thing, Atlas, is that, of course, Ari had to back and shop, so was always going to have less experience, knew there was no flash available. For some reason, Seros wandered into ultimate range, didn't even have to use the flash to get that ultimate, and easily picks up the kill on the level 5 Ari.
Yeah, and Yutapon is going to use that spell shield to get rid of that piercing light here on the bottom side, but beautiful play netting first blood over to the Zed, and that is terrifying. I mean, for the Detonation Focus Me lineup, because getting G4 fed and when he's on a Zed is a horrible thing.
Yeah, the fed Zed is always a big issue, and in this particular situation, remember, Seros has been the cornerstone of the reliability. He's been the reliable one as members of the team have struggled in the first 2 losses. Now, he's the one who's behind, and you have to worry maybe that'll unsettle Detonation Focus Me. In their first game, the one thing they could rely on is that their mid laner will put in a fairly heroic performance.
Yeah, they most certainly were, and see whether it is going to continue. Of course, we do have a lot of game left remaining, Papa Smithy, and this is only 1 kill to go down, but all of the ultimates have now been hit, apart from a few. Astaroth still yet to find his, and Kazoo not having theirs either is going to be a difficulty, but bottom lane about to hit that stage, and we'll see whether that changes the focus of this game.
I mean, the Barmy Cinder already finished for Shen, so at least we'll have some pushing options. The better that he can push lane, one of the reasons why it's relevant for Shen to push lane is we see the burst trades coming out on top. I say burst, but Shen, not really known for much
wet
burst
noodle
damage.
trades.
Maybe when Trinity Force is completed, we might see some burst trades. But the reason why I talk about it for Shen is that A, he doesn't have pushing options, so the enemy champion deciding whether they want to freeze the wave or push the wave gives them all the lane control. They can always push the wave up and then roam with their jungler, for example.
Yep.
But even more simply, Shen getting to push a wave in, the enemy top laner has to react to the minion wave. They have to push it back. That's more time for the ultimate to be used, the Stand United, to impact other lanes before the minion wave can be pushed in and he has to answer any pressure of his own.
Oh, Kazoo, though, in a whole lot of trouble here on the bottom side. He's ignited. The heal going to come through as Lloyd was in trouble. Yutapon, no mana left. He's going to Spell Shield and Ice Blast, but 1 kill going to go down again here on the bottom side of the map for the Bangkok Titans, and they may transition into a dragon.
You can understand why with Lloyd being so low, why Detonation Focus Me were a bit overextended. They thought they had kill pressure onto Lloyd. They did. He almost, I believe he lived on single value health, 9, 10 health after the Ignite tick came out. But it was enough, and they get punished once again to Detonation Focus Me. Yeah,
and G4 offering his damage as well. Has picked up another couple of longswords going towards that Brutalizer there in the mid lane as Bonzen trying to farm up here against Warlock. But this Shen with lane control for days so far. Udapon now in an awkward situation as Spell Shield not going to be found. Nice exhaust from Moss as the flash into the snowball comes through from 007. He's going to get him a flash, though.
It is good flash trade, though. Your jungler for the enemy AD carry was, again, a little bit off with the spell shield, was punished, had to use the flash. Suddenly, overextending in lane. Remember, Sivir and Lulu have been overextended the whole laning phase. Speaking of overextended.
Yeah, that's very overextended. Lulu, Deathmark going to come through here as G4. He's going to get Stand United as well as the multiple ninjas going to be partying here in the mid lane. Shen is going to cancel that ultimate, though, and G4 just going to go back to farming as Astaroth makes his way towards the middle. And Detonation Focus Me focusing this mid lane quite a lot as G4 able to use his shadows to keep himself safe.
Worth noting, I believe that was the devastating charge being used to cancel the Shen ultimate. Shen used to have a weird mechanic where he could self-cancel the ultimate, but I believe it no longer exists on the current patch.
I believe I actually played Shen just recently and wanted to cancel my own ultimate. Didn't actually work. I mean, so that makes a whole lot of sense.
Well, it's a trade-off. It's the same situation where people talk about Sunfire Cape. As 007X finds 2 members.
Yeah, and he's continuing to run aggressively here. Bonzen going to make his way down, but Warlock is on his way as well. As there's the Arctic Assault. Moss is going to body slam his way out of this one as it's now a bit of a face-off, but with Seros around the corner and G4 not quite there yet, it is going to mean that Bangkok Titans back away.
That was definitely the ultimate 3v3 wet noodle fight. There was no damage potential from those members whatsoever. It was definitely an interesting standoff coming through. G4, the really nice item timings coming through. Bilge Water into Brutalizer. Kill pressure onto this Ahri. It's, the armor pickup from the Zhonya's compartment, be damned, though. The Seeker's Arm Guard only going to do so much against all those early items coming through from G4.
Yeah, and Moss actually solo zoning the Detonation Focus Me members away from that ward and is able to destroy a pink. That's ridiculous. G4 was in lane.
But the unique thing about Gragas is that he's happy to go for these aggressive invades. Once you have Sightstone, you can put down wards other supports can because you've got that reposition, you've got that dash over the Dragon Wall, and just no way to punish him with the disengage from the Explosive Cask.
Yeah, really nicely done. So Moss taking control of the enemy jungle here as Warlock completely immovable in that top side of the map now with almost a 20 CS advantage and that Sunfire Cape completed. His Shen may become a problem moving forward. 007X just hanging out in this Tri-Brush on the top side. Moss just leaving his AD carry. These supports have been roaming around this map from about the 7-minute mark.
But the only reason that this is happening in bot, you look at the CS advantage, actually building for Lucian, now 20 CS up. Remember, he was the one who had no options in the early game after the quick level 2. This has all happened because Udapon's got no flash. He's not able to go up this lane. It's been frozen for so long. Now he finally pops the ultimate, but he's going to go back to being denied very soon.
Yeah, Lloyd actually overextending now just a little bit, but Kazoo going to find him. Moss behind, though. So Detonation Focus Me are going to have to leave this bottom side of the map. Udapon with no ultimate, no heal, and no flash. But there's no turret here either, and the Bangkok Titans really putting the pressure on. Nice Glitter Lance, but the flash into the piercing light is going to net Lloyd the kill.
And we didn't even note the fact that they quickly DPS down that turret. And there's being overextended without flash and being overextended without flash and no turret to run away to. So the moment that ultimate went down, so much kill pressure from the Gragas. Open up time for him to roam. We mentioned the fact that level 2 roaming would be impressive. Once you have the Explosive Cask, even more roam options for the Gragas. And it feels like that's the kind of the problem here is that Bangkok Titans have so many flexible options. And unfortunately, Detonation Focus Me are just running around the map trying to find farm where they can and losing advantages in multiple lanes.
Yeah, and it seems to me like they can't really catch a break as every single lane going well here for the Bangkok Titans. Warlock now going to freeze out this top wave as well. Has to be very careful not to go anywhere near the minions if that's what he's going to do, but probably just trying to get the push working out for himself as Seros going to be clearing out underneath this turret. And Bonzen, very early home guard purchase, but that is going to put behind his Trinity Force just a little bit.
And it's all about those rotations with teleports. If you have strong lanes, it makes sense to go for the home guard. If you see one of your lanes winning, you could go for that home guard, getting it the guaranteed burst, and be very confident that you'll pick up a kill to justify that use of the 5-minute summoner. But when your lanes are losing, home guard boots don't provide you that much when you're just in a laning phase.
Yeah, Warlock now, though. Bonzen does get wild growth as Kazoo comes through. Arctic Assault going to find the Shen as well. He's down to half health. You've done well here, Detonation Focus Me, as Warlock. He's going to get the next ultimate. It took him a long time, but he is going to fall down. And
multiple members.
Yeah, a lot of the Bangkok Titans heading towards this top side of the map, but Detonation Focus Me, they disengage in time.
I mean, they know they actually had the Scuttle Crab visions. They saw the multiple members coming through. Had to respect that, so only a bit of time wasted here for the Bangkok Titans. Good for Detonation Focus Me to get on the kill score board, but the pushing actually continues in top.
Yeah, the top lane, they are going to push towards this turret as, of course, Lloyd has rotated around. Nice use of the culling there just to chunk out Bonds, and he's going to have to go back. And we'll see whether he uses that teleport, because that may mean that the next dragon going definitely over to the Bangkok Titans, because that's up in 15 seconds. Yuta Pongo very, very low as G4 is looking for him. Doesn't have the death mark. Used that before. Another flash as Yuta Pongo is going to use the heal and the spell shield, and he's going to be safe.
It probably could have only used the spell shield and been just fine. There's the home guard.
Yeah, home guard coming through into Lloyd. Explosive cast going to get that horse out of there now, though, as Stand United's going to come through. Moss turning it around immediately. Flashes forward. There's the taunt. It's going to net them the kill onto Astro. They're looking for more as the piercing light, just the tip, is going to snag Bonzen, but Bangkok Titans, they get one, and they might be able to now get the turret.
Such a blast from the past to see the aggressive use of the Shen ultimate. The Stand United nets them another turret. He's actually in the lane he wants to be in anyway. 2 outer turrets down, and the Ahri trying to answer Zed in mid. But don't know if the item timings are quite there. Zed doesn't have the ultimate, though, so Seros should have lane control, at least for the next 30, 40 seconds.
Yeah, he's able to heal himself back up with that passive as well. Definitely useful there, but G4, he's got a red buff. And a whole lot of friends, yeah.
They want this third outer turret, as the charm, as you mentioned, is very nice on the mark, but they're just buying time for 007X to solo the dragon.
Yeah, sneak mission there by Secret Agent Nunu. Going to be able to take down that dragon. They had so much vision, though. You can see anyone who was going to walk into that red side jungle of Detonation Focus Me was going to be spotted.
I mean, this is excellent vision on both sides of the map. Around the blue and enemy red side, they have not exclusive vision, but good vision, deep vision, enough to see the pathing very predictably.
So aggressive.
And again, this was the same result that came through in the Ints versus Detonation Focus Me game to close the night yesterday, is that these teams can really get on top of Detonation Focus Me in terms of the vision battles, and that's just been the ever-present story, is that Detonation Focus Me have been denied resources to farm up to the points where their team comps, obviously very relevant in the late game, but if they're behind 10,000 plus gold in the late game, even picking a comp that works in your advantage just isn't enough of a factor.
Yeah, Moss hanging out now in the mid lane as Lloyd just wants to take down all of these outer turrets. They're playing some pretty textbook League of Legends, are Bangkok Titans, just taking down
1-3-1 time.
Yep, every resource, one after the other, and you're exactly right. The ninjas relegated to the side lanes as the rest going to be heading down the mid. And with Moss and 007, Lloyd must be feeling pretty safe.
So the Zhonya's is completed on Ahri. Now if you want to get any kill pressure, you have to basically get her to face check a bush, get a lot of trade damage, get the early Zhonyas, and then use the ultimate to cap things off. And of course, you've already denied the natural item timings that Ahri wants to go for. Really craves the early magic, early 20% CDR and mana regen from the likes of Athene's Unholy Grail and the Melanomicon, but relegated just to burst damage. Even though Ahri's burst is the one thing that was kind of removed when they went for the latest changes in her kit.
Yeah, Saros going to throw out a charm there a little bit optimistically as G4 continuing to push down this wave. Is able to clear out a whole bunch of the minions, but Ahri able to stave off that aggression there. Bonzen might be in trouble, but Astaro's here as well as 007. There's the Onslaught of Shadows, gets the double fear, but 007 super tanky. There's a nice ultimate to come through as Kazoo trying to get in there, but on the hunt's being popped. Yuta Pongo is in here. There's the Stand United actually coming through on top of 007. He's alive somehow. Heal to come down as Lloyd picks up Astro. The double kill actually as the Civ are going to fall down as well. Warlock picks up his first one, and man, a 3-for-1, and Bangkok Titans make it look easy.
And 007X lived for so long through the level 2 550 damage shield. That's the big consideration. Don't see a lot of Shen. Don't even see a lot of Shens that do well, but this Shen is super strong.
Yeah, there's a decent Zonya's Hourglass as Seros is going to take some shurikens, but turns it around. There it is, the 1v1, and Seros comes out on top.
So relegated to less teamfight impact without the cooldown reduction, but in the 1v1, you can see that Zonya's is still the ultimate trump card against Zed. They still wouldn't have died.
Yeah, I know. I was just like active items. Just wanted to point it out. Seros, though, completely out of mana now, is going to head back, but that is definitely a notch in the Detonation Focus Me belt that they can really get excited about.
So let's watch this fight. It's a long engage. They really engage hard on two super tanky men, but they have Sivir coming. She has to on the hunt for the faster rotations. You can understand why they feel like, okay, this is our time to get back into the game. Bonzen hit, Aurora's the big, so 007 hits gets very, very low, but they kind of stop DPSing him for no reason. They try to get away, and this is the result. 3 big, quick kills coming through. If they had focused down the Nunu, the Shen teleport would never have been... I mean, Shen was already there, but the Shen wouldn't have been as relevant in that fight, and the end result is a big team fight win for Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, and 007X, he eventually did fall down, but you're exactly right. Just didn't fall down quickly enough. A barrel going to slow down Kazoo, but of course not going to offer too much damage coming from the support Gragas. But what I want to mention is the fact that there is now a 4-0 and 2 Lucian on the map here for the Bangkok Titans, who is doing a fantastic job, already has the Phantom Dancer Infinity Edge, and he's going to hit some huge damage spikes this game.
A 4-0 and 2 Lucian that was struggling in the early levels, the lane we have to remember.
Yeah.
We thought lane control was going to go to Detonation Focus Me, but the early turret, a lot of factors came together to conspire against the Sivir Lulu lane, and the end result is that Moss has done some very effective roaming, 6 out of 7 kill participation, and now we get this situation where Ahri can kind of answer the split push from Zed, but every other part of the map is definitely in the advantage of Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, and Warlock almost completed with that Randuin's Omen as well. Of course, almost forgot the name, but is going to be picking that one up next, and we'll see whether he deviates towards any magic resist. Of course, Spirit Visage, always a fantastic item on Shen. We'll see whether he picks up that item.
And Shen really craves some cooldown reduction, has fairly long cooldowns on his abilities, particularly the ultimate. A lot more global presence, always a great thing. They're considering their options for a turret dive, and while our previous game, Chaos Latin Gamers, might have found an opportunity for the turret dive, they hold their tongue this time.
Yeah, not going to come through just yet here for the Bangkok Titans, but that outer turret is taking some consistent damage as these piercing lights going to do some work. The culling coming down as well from Lloyd as he's trying to chunk out the members of the Japanese team. Astral going to be heading back to base, and Shen is pushed up so far. Seros now may explode, does get a bit of a shield back, but Deathmark not going to take him down. G4 with a bit of control over this lane now. Didn't need to use the Zonyas, did Seros either, as the Spirit Rush was enough to get him to safety, but probably would have preferred to use the item rather than the ult.
And the Shen is just so strong at this point. The item timings are so delayed, specifically the home guard boots, as Moss has already sniped away the Sivir.
Yeah, Yudapongo is going to fall down as that 3-man squad in the mid lane going to be able to take down the Sivir, and there's her corpse. That, we know where she died, we just don't quite know how just yet. We may need to talk to 007, do some detective work, figure that one out. Of course, he was there. Warlock hanging around here as well. He's going to spot a ward, and we'll see whether this 4-man unit going to be able to take down this turret, as Lloyd is going to relentlessly pursue it and take it down there with the Light Slinger.
I mean, the support Gragas, you have to mention, the one thing that we've noted about Gragas, whether it's the support or jungle Gragas on this new patch, as we see so much of the tanky Gragas coming out where the burst damage not as relevant, is that he makes champions like Lucian and Zed who have excellent turret damage but do it from melee range or short range respectively, just use that cask offensively and take objectives. In that case, they picked up a kill as well. But Gragas' objective pay, always been one of his strong suits, still present in the tank meta.
Yeah, really beautiful stuff. And one thing I'd like to mention, Papa Smithy,
I'm listening,
is our Bangkok Titans now have an 8,000 gold lead at 23 minutes.
They also have 3 dragons, and they're also going to look for a fight.
Yeah, they're looking for something. Charm not going to land. It looked like it threaded a needle there as 007 gets his ultimate cancelled very early. He's gone down extremely low, but Hecarim, he's going to be the one that dies. Sejuani follows as Yudapongo. He was there for a second. 007's tanking everything as Seros, the last man standing in this fight, and Kazoo is like, team, what did you do?
8,000 gold was the lead, and the team fight was massively won. Lloyd at the start of the fight, remember, you already had excellent item timings in Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, and the extra longsword. Got a full channel of the culling, and no one has any armor on the side of Detonation Focus Me yet. He completely wrecked multiple frontliners, and the rest of the team did their jobs.
Yeah, Bonzen almost able to finish off that Trinity Force as well. Has every component, just needs that 87 gold, but the Baron is going to fall down now for the Bangkok Titans.
Just watch the Lloyd at the back of this fight. Once they engage the fight, so the culling chunks out both frontline members, almost instant kills the Hecarim, and then from there, Lloyd can just freely DPS. Ari gets the Spirit Rush. She wants to get the kill on the very low health 007X, but it's hardly the biggest thing, and Nunu's always so tanky that he lives anyway, and it's a beautiful team fight win there for the Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, and Lloyd just had a field day. He was just running around, hitting whoever he wanted. No pressure at all.
And you can see how little pressure he perceives. He's actually gone for the Sword of the Occult.
Oh, dearie, dearie me. BF Sword as well was picked up at the same time. That is huge. He must have been sitting on a huge chunk of change and still managed to do brilliantly in that team fight. Spectre's Cowl now for Warlock as well as the completed Randuin's Omen. This Shen, pretty massive. Not to mention, you know, Nunu sitting on that Aegis of the Legion and the Cinder Hulk. Gigantic amount of kill participation there as well, as this Nunu has been everywhere he needs to be. G4 looking for another split push, misses the shurikens, and there's the teleport as well, as Xeros actually taking a lot of damage back, but Bonzen's here. Astaroth as well, Kazoo's down. G4 looking to try and get something going on here. Seros has to deal with him in melee range. He's somehow out of there all over this map, and in the meantime, it's Shen that takes down the Hecarim. Saros is going to get barreled back underneath the turret. There's the ultimate to come through, immediately cancelled though, as 007 tanking this turret without a care in the world. Yuta now trying to kill someone. Please, Detonation, focus me. Kill someone, but the taunt comes through as G4 somehow from beyond the grave or somewhere gets in there, kills the turret, and meanwhile Lloyd was taking the base.
That was one of the most insane 4v5 victories I've ever seen.
Where did that extra shadow come from, Papa Smithy?
I cannot answer that question. It must have been from the ultimate, I'd have to say, which grants you another shadow. But if anyone is a secret agent, apologies to 007, but it's G4. How he lived during that fight will be an eternal mystery. We have the replay to show you. But the smooth moves, remember, this is a 5v4.
Look at how many auto attacks he gets off as well.
We're not all grouped just yet. G4 falls low, has a shadow coming through from his ultimate, so we can track that already. Flashes to do damage to Seros, then goes back to his first shadow and lives amazingly. So he's out of the fight at this point. Lucian hasn't rotated at any point. Now it's 5v4 action as multiple members fall super low. 007 decides he's the true ninja because, of course, Shen all about tanking and ninjas. Not really about that. Goes for the extended turret dive. Moss doesn't die because his happy hour comes back. They're eventually going to get all these kills, and Zed comes back. That's the crazy thing, is they auto-attacked minions high enough health to get back into the fight and got the last kill.
Yeah, and speaking of a fight, another one's erupting here as Saros is going to get exhausted. There's the culling, and the Ari just gets torn to shreds by this Lucian. Gets cold. I probably should have gone for that, shouldn't I, Papa Smithy? But man, this Bangkok Titans lineup is definitely tearing through these guys. As a death mark's going to come through. Yuta, nice spell shield, but probably dead.
Yep. Even had time to do a bit of laughing because a lot of damage coming through.
Yes, and the horse just going to throw out a sweet digital rainbow into the death chamber.
And look, we definitely want Warlock to be tanking up this inhibitor turret, but another ace comes through, another clean ace, no less.
That's a 20,000 gold lead.
20,000 gold lead. They've got silly items. Everything's working. 13 stacks is the unlucky number here for Donation Focus Me on this Sword of the Occult coming through for Lloyd. And this is 3-0, and the new trendsetters are the Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, Bangkok Titans really looking good moving forward here. The Southeast Asian team coming through undefeated, even in the beginning of the day two, which was looking like the underdog day. KLG managing to pick up a win, but it is going to be the Bangkok Titans continuing their spree here in the International Wildcard Invitational, and we'll see whether that one goes even